Hello, Phil. Thanks for joining me again on today's Tech Chat. This is a follow-up to our last Tech Chat, actually, where we talked about the estimate importer. So I think today you wanted to talk to me about the distribution uploader. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, over to you.
Okay, so guys, this is the part two really, and the follow-up. In part one, we'd actually basically consumed a CSV file describing a campaign, which was great. It had a proposed SKU code associated to it, which was great. But of course, now we have to actually convert that and create our various SKUs, jobs, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen here and then fire up a video to show you all of that. So let's just quickly do that. I'll just fire the video up. So what we've got in here, as you can see, is inside the Tharstern estimating system. We've basically got a couple of estimates here, the 3x6 tickets, and obviously the posters that we'd actually previously had from the previous demonstration. And I'm just opening one of these up just so that you can actually see that when you look at the actual estimate itself, there's a little button in the top right hand corner where if you press that, you can see basically the proposed SKU codes that had actually been consumed from that previous CSV file. And that's going to be obviously materially very significant in this process. And you'll notice that when I go into the inventory, with that SKU prefix there, a filter, there's none of those items in there. That's more or less so that you can see that I haven't got cards up my sleeves. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a new job from selected. So we're converting those estimates into the jobs. As you can see, the information is actually loading through, doing the verification of the customer, bringing up the commentary. And, you know, we'd kind of do our normal stuff, put in the customer order number, required by date, shipping dates, etc. And lo and behold, we would basically save this information and then obviously get our series jobs being generated. But there's also some other cool stuff that's actually going to take place as a direct result of that. And what we're going to do in a second is we'll have a look at how when we open up the job, we can actually see there's a variety of subjobs. And I'm going to bypass the creation of the works instruction docket physically here. You can see that we're looking at one of these jobs. We've got a series of subjobs that have been generated as a result, which are basically all the names of the items that we consumed. But most importantly, you can see that those proposed stock codes or inventory codes have become the inventory codes inside the system. And the same things happened on the posters as well. So what I'm doing here is I'm just zipping back into the inventory, and with that filter still on, lo and behold, those inventory items have been dynamically generated, which is pretty cool in itself. And if we open up the actual inventory record, inside the activity, you can see there is a work in progress transaction that links directly back to that specified job number. And that's taken a whole batch of time out of the process because those SKU or inventory codes have been generated dynamically. Pretty cool, that. So we can see our job listings, and you could almost argue that in this particular case, I'm kind of like going to bypass a lot of the processes of scheduling, etc. But I'm going to produce these jobs. And this is the process of confirming the quantities. So you can see that we can see all the individual items or sub-jobs in there with the quantities, which we could amend and do overs, etc. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save these, and fundamentally, those jobs have actually been generated. But more importantly, what that now means is that the inventory balance has actually increased to represent whatever's been manufactured versus what's obviously available as well. So that's great, but of course the acid test comes down to the consumption of the data that your customer actually supplies you, which could be immediate, or more generally speaking, it could be at a later stage of the process. So we're opening up here a CSV file that represents the actual distribution, and I'm basically opening up with Excel, as you can see. And again, we've got a series of column headers that really represent fundamentally what the SKU is and which store it belongs to. So you can see there's the customer code, in this case Starbucks. We can also actually see the actual order reference, which is the individual store in this case. We can also see the actual delivery code attributed to it, and there you can see the actual product code or SKU code with the associated quantities. And as I actually highlight these, you can see that these are for different stores basically. Now I've just sequenced each individual SKU going to perhaps a different store, but obviously in the real world there might be combinations of SKUs going to different stores with inside the store profiling. And we can see that there's a whole batch of these. I've done four stores in this particular case. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what we can do is we can actually drag that file into a hot folder, and it's now going to get processed. And what's going to happen is it's going to generate a series of sales orders In fact, a single sales order per store, although there's nothing to stop you from having one sales order to represent the entire distro. That's more of your choice. And in the sales order processing system, you can see that that data is actually being consumed. We've got a separate sales order per store, and it's all gone to an allocated status, and it's awaiting shipping. Now, I'm going to stop this at this point in time because in the real world, you would be checking this data out pretty seriously because, as I found in my print career, sometimes customers have the habit of actually asking for a distribution that exceeds the original order quantity, and obviously you actually identify that and then take associated corrective action, which invariably involves obviously producing the excess balance of those specific SKU codes, or basically just saying, no, which one of the stores don't you want to get those items? And that's more of a commercial and a structural thing that you actually deal with your customers, obviously. But you can see that it's a great way of getting that data in there. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we've got our individual sales orders there. There's also a line listing capability as well. But what I'm doing here is I'm just opening up an individual store profile so you can see those items there. And there is the line listing showing everything that needs to actually be basically shipped. So that's pretty cool. And what happens next is very much up to how you actually want to process that particular data. You can output your picking lists and you can actually then do your pick and pack routines, but you can send it through the fulfillment routine if you wish to do so, and utilize the mobile inventory to actually basically get those items picked and packed. So there's multiple ways of doing that. And in fact, I won't go into a great deal of detail here, but you can also use the mobile inventory to assist that process. So again, there's multiple ways of doing that, where you can obviously start the picking and you can select where you're picking from, and then you can actually start to initiate those picks as if you were obviously the person actually getting hold of those items.
Yep.
And then you basically ship the items accordingly, and obviously you create your consolidated sales invoice. And lo and behold, the process is basically done.
Nice. Very slick process, Phil. Thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
See you again on the next Tech Chat.
Take care, everyone.
Cheers.